So, we talked about the worst gameplay mechanics in all the Kingdom Hearts games recently. So let's do the best ones now. So, like before, we will be covering all of the games except for the phone games since, as I've stated, I've never played them before. But before we begin, do me a favor and like and sub. We're trying to get to 400 and I could really use your help. With that shameless plug done with, let's get started. So, I recently played through all of Kingdom Hearts 1 again to get its platinum, and I gotta say, after going through it again, I've got a whole new appreciation for the way builds are handled in the original. The options you choose in regards to your build feel like they have way more weight involved with your gameplay in comparison to the choices you make in later versions. While I still will always hold the belief that I think Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3 have far more fun and engaging combat to their games, you can pretty much tear through most enemies towards the endgame if you're not playing on critical mode, just swinging your Keyblade. But Kingdom Hearts 1 makes you really pay attention more towards what you're equipping for battle, what spells you're using, what special moves you have equipped. It's got a lot more depth than what one might think. It might honestly be the hardest one to go back to in terms of things like the frustrating camera and enemy design, but it truly was a lot more in-depth than I think some people like a certain Crimson Rosso was giving it credit for. Fuck that guy, am I right? You totally shouldn't do something like and subscribe to his channel, am I right? So the longer I do these kinds of videos and enter myself into the Kingdom Hearts community, the more I've learned that I'm apparently a minority in loving the card-based combat of Chain of Memories. And I love it for a very good reason. I'm a big fan of action games being incredibly fast, and the split-second card combat of Chain of Memories feels so damn awesome to master the more you play it. There's something so insanely satisfying about dodging several powerful slights and attacks thrown by the enemy, and when they think you're cornered, you whip out your Zero card and card break them. And then you just proceed to whoop all levels of ass on said enemy. I do admit it's not a perfect combat system, as I've stated that late game slights aren't very helpful as you reach later sections, and to be honest, after playing Chain of Memories again, they really didn't make it feel as good as the GBA version. But I don't think those flaws take away from everything else that clicks with this combat. Please, everyone who watches this, give the GBA version of Chain of Memories a chance if you've only played the PS2 version. And if you do and still don't like it, then I'll make a video ranking the Kingdom Hearts games. Oh wait, that's going to be a video for the next batch. Never mind. I'll think of something. Probably the single easiest choice I had to make for this video. Drive forms were easily one of the best game inclusions Square has ever implemented into any of their series, and I will full on fucking die on this hill. Fight me. Sorry. Anyways, at first glance they just kinda seem like cool power forms to use, but the more you play, the more they become an absolute game changer for combat. From completely changing up your playstyle, to giving you temporary buffs to things like magic, attack power, or movement speed, sometimes even more than one. And best of all, the fact that leveling up your drive forms not only secures you improved abilities in that form, but even unlocks extra abilities for your base form. Hell, there is a crazy combo stuff I've discovered by playing through the games again, that if you use limit forms and mix them with your drive forms, you can create incredibly powerful and absolutely devastating combos. It's so fucking fun. One day I'm gonna have to make a video about the tech of that stuff because it's just so cool to talk about. But back on track, that's for a later time. Drive form mastery is amazing, and it opens up a near bottomless well of combat potential in 2. And it's a damn shame we never got something on its level until maybe the Keyblade swapping in 3. Okay, so I've spent a better part of my YouTube lifetime throwing shade at 358 over 2 days. I've complained about it endlessly. I still do think it's the weakest Kingdom Hearts game. But even with all of the bitching I do about the game, I do think there are some positive things in the game. And I get that's as surprising as someone saying their favorite game store is GameStop, but trust me, I can be positive with this game. And the one thing I genuinely think it did amazingly was the inclusion of multiplayer. I think multiplayer is one of the coolest ideas for a Kingdom Hearts game. The concept of getting a friend to join you in a game series where single player gameplay has always been the main focus is a really dope idea. And I loved goofing around with it constantly with my friends on the bus ride home from school. But I still think it's frustrating that you cannot do this in any of the main games. I really do hope Kingdom Hearts 4 will try something along the lines of multiplayer one more time, even if it's just something like a simple versus mode like we got in Melody of Memory. I would just really like for them to give this another shot. I think it could really, really work. Recoded is a pretty interesting game to look back on, as I remember hearing word of mouth saying it was just a remaster of Kingdom Hearts 1 with a worse story. And to be honest, well, the story is way, way worse than the first games. The part where it's just a remaster is just total bullshit and seemed to just be used to talk down on the game. Kingdom Hearts Recoded plays incredibly well. There's areas where I'm willing to say it even improves upon the first game's combat. And the biggest point towards that was in its all-new command deck system. A combat system that appeared in Birth by Sleep first and started to move its way into all of the other handheld games. And it's a system that I think is at its peak in Recoded. For those who have never played any of the other games, or just picked up this video because your friend annoyed you to watch it, up until Birth by Sleep, Kingdom Hearts hadn't really changed up the formula of its game outside of Chain of Memories for its combats. It was always a 4-section board layout where you would choose either attack, magic, items, or a fourth option that was special to the game. In Birth by Sleep, however, they introduced the command deck system, a system that mixes the more tactical fighting of Kingdom Hearts 1 with a bevy of abilities that rely on things like cooldowns other than MP. And personally, I absolutely love this mechanic. It feels like a genuinely good mix of both worlds. You get fast abilities for tearing apart enemies, and the slower, more tactical combat that makes you think a lot more. It's a good balance, and I think Recoded really captured it the best. Especially considering that in this one, you could just equip two abilities together to make something new instead of just fusing them. I really liked this. Hell, I liked it to the point where I'd actually say that it's more fun to use and mess around with than Birth by Sleep's. And I loved Birth by Sleep's command deck. I honestly hope that one day this game gets a remake, so hopefully it can flesh out some of its rougher patches. Because I really do think this game is a lot of fun, and I hope more people get to try it sometime. Instead of that fucking movie we got on the re-releases. That made me so angry, you can't even... Next video. I don't want to go into a rant. Yet. So now we have arrived at Birth by Sleep. And to be honest, it was kind of hard to pick just one, considering I think Birth by Sleep did a lot of things right with its gameplay. Originally I was just going to talk about the command board in this game as well, but that would just be me reusing the points I used in the Recoded section, literally right before this, and that's something I want to try not to do in any of my videos, unless I have good enough points to actually do it again. So after thinking it over a bit, I chose what I believe is the other best thing, and that's the ability to play as multiple characters. Now, for the record, this has been something you can do in Chain of Memories with the Riku story, and in the multiplayer with 358, but they each kind of had problems to them. Riku's Chain of Memories storyline was only unlocked after beating the game, and while it was amazing, you couldn't really customize his character all that much, which led to you tearing through everything with how strong he already was. And 358 only let you play as different characters in the multiplayer sections, aka stuff that never happened in the main game. In Birth by Sleep, that isn't a problem, as you can choose between all three of the characters right from the start. And the coolest part is that each of them has an advantage over the other. Terra is better for attack-based skills, Aqua is better built for using magic, and Ventus is a mix of both, but with a faster movement speed. Each one opens up such a vast well of possibilities for combat potential. It's genuinely awesome. Out of curiosity, who was your favorite to play as? Mine was always Ventus. Okay, so Dream Drop is far from what you might call a perfect game. Its drop mechanic is really annoying, the drop sections to enter worlds aren't really all that fun and feel way too samey, and some abilities are just so broken that they make every other ability feel fucking worthless in comparison. But out of everything they added, flow motion was easily one of the best additions around. The concept of taking the command deck style from the DS games and mixing it with crazy pinballing action in the form of flow motion to make fights feel fast, intense, and above all else, feel fun as all hell. I remember playing Dream Drop back when it came out and just finding every chance I could to use flow motion just because I loved how balls to the walls it made every encounter in the game. It's honestly kind of a shame that Kingdom Hearts 3 pretty much neutered it. It makes sense, and it's certainly not garbage, but it's nowhere near as fun to use in fights as it is in 3DS. Here's hoping 4 finds more ways to bring it back to its, former glory. So I've made this statement before in previous videos, and I still stick by it, that I believe Fragmentary Passage is far more a tech demo than it is an actual game. It's more so showing what Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be like, alongside telling a short little story about what's been going on with Aqua in basically Kingdom Hearts hell. It's a fun little side story that's worth sinking some time into. And one thing I loved in this game was the introduction of what I jokingly called Super Magic, until I actually learned it was called Grand Magic, but fuck it, we're just going to call it Super Magic because that's more fun. Super Magic is achieved in Kingdom Hearts by using the same attack-based spells multiple times. When those conditions are met, a bar appears over the normal command board that's activated by pressing triangle, and this allows you to use the Super Magic. And these Super Magic spells are fucking devastating. The spells do insane amounts of damage that make your normal God level spells look like that pussy shit in comparison. It's always satisfying to just unleash this chaos on a group of enemies and wipe them off the face of the earth. 3 then expanded onto it with even more spells to unleash. It's honestly kind of a shame this game doesn't get more credit for introducing such an awesome mechanic. Maybe because the game is really short and isn't as revisitable as others, so it wasn't as imprinted in people's memories as things like dry forms or flow motion was. Again, this is just a theory, so if anyone knows why, let me know in the comments because I'd like to know. Hell, if you don't know why, just leave a goofy ass reason in the comments for something to laugh at. Kingdom Hearts 3 brought a lot to the table when it came to the combat. A mix of good and bad ideas, if you will. But one thing that was definitely on the good side was the introduction of the Keyblade swapping mechanic. Keyblade swapping, to me, is one of the best mechanics introduced in the entire franchise. The ability to equip multiple Keyblades for a battle, and then being able to swap between them to deal continuous combos is such a simple, yet fantastic idea and fits so well into the crazy speed-based combat of Kingdom Hearts, that it's so crazy that it hasn't been implemented sooner. This system is also incredibly elevated with the form change system. Being able to unleash a crazy combo, enter your form, and then swap over to a different Keyblade to continue said combo, and then when you swap back to that Keyblade, the form change is still around, which lets you to make another combo, is even more icing on the delicious cake that was Kingdom Hearts 3's combat. Hey Square, if you or somehow or some way see this video, give the guy who came up with the Keyblade swapping a raise, because he definitely deserves it. So this one was pretty hard to pick for this list. Not really out of something like dislike, but more or less as I had to kind of take a step back from how I looked at the game as a whole. As Melody of Memory is not a traditional Kingdom Hearts game, but it is instead a rhythm game. But after a bit I was able to pinpoint what I think is the best feature, and that is its versus function. I'm not certain if a versus mode has been in a lot of rhythm games, as I'm not really someone who touches those kinds of games, I'm planning to get into them more though, because Melody of Memory was really fun. But if it isn't, I highly recommend more creators add it into their games in a style similar to Melody of Memories. The idea of you and an opponent facing off by trying to get the better ratings on each other's notes in order to build up a trick-like system in order to fuck over your opponent with some crazy-ass debuff ability makes for some truly chaotic fun. It is certainly not a perfect mechanic. Some tricks in the game are kind of worthless in comparison to others, but that doesn't ruin this honestly super fun side mode. Here's hoping if we ever get a Melody of Memory 2 that they choose to improve upon it with better trick balancing. And with that, we have reached the end of this video. I really hope you all enjoyed the content. This was a lot of fun to talk about. And if you really did enjoy it, do me a favor and leave a like and a sub to help me out. Also, if you're curious and ever want to chat with me IRL, I now have a Twitch channel. I set it up a couple weeks ago. There's a link to it in my channel bio. But that's all for now. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and I'll see you all for the next video.